Punk Rock HR is brought to you by GP, formerly known as Globalization Partners. If you're hiring beyond borders, GP helps you build global teams faster and better. They've got industry-leading compliance, expert guidance, and the kind of support that actually scales with you. Book a demo today and see how GP can help you grow at globalization-partners.com.
In all of our research that we do, it really shows just how AI and the changing world of work is really keeping executives up at night. For HR, I think some people might say, oh, well, that's going to get wiped out very quickly. I actually don't agree with that. I think some of the manual things in HR can absolutely get wiped out very quickly, but the work of dealing with people are messy. And there's a lot that AI can't do when it comes to leading people and running an organization.
Hey, everybody, I'm Lori Rudiman, and this is Punk Rock HR. My guest today is Laura Maffucci, Vice President and Head of Human Resources at GP, formerly Globalization Partners. Laura is an HR pro with roots in total rewards and operations, and she's now leading at the edge of global work and AI. She's on the show today to talk about the changing role of HR, what it means to stay relevant in a tech-driven world, and what agentic AI actually means and why it matters. If you check out the show notes, you'll find two crucial industry reports that Laura highlights in the episode, both packed with valuable insights. And if you're looking for an HR business leader to emulate, I've got one for you. As always, I'm super happy to share my conversation, so sit back and enjoy the talk with Laura Maffucci on this week's Punk Rock HR. Hey, Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Lori. Thanks so much for having me. It's so nice to meet you and great to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to really host you and your big ideas. So before we get started and dive into the research and talk about all things nerdy, HR and tech and all that good stuff, I would really like to start with you. So maybe you can share the story of how you landed at GP and how you found yourself working at the intersection of HR technology and all the global work that you do.
Sure. So I'm going to age myself, Gen X, been in HR for probably 30 years. Started out actually in compensation and quickly blended over into HRIS. So I was in compensation, HRIS, HR operations, and then took on benefits and moved into total rewards. And have worked in pretty much across the board industries, everything from services and consumer packaged goods. I was at Ocean Spray for a long time, and then also some other smaller tech companies, and then landed at GP and initially came in to head up a new total rewards function, came in very early days. So it was really exciting to build everything from the ground up. And it's just been such an exciting company to be at. It's so different in HR. You know, we're so used to just being, oh, well, you're just overhead. Hey, how do you contribute to the business? But we're not only the, use case customer for GP, but we also are the product. I'm lucky enough to have benefits in my purview, and the benefits that we have for our internal employees, we also have for our EOR professionals. So impacting that way. And then in moving into our new agentic AI and GIA, really helping with not only some of the content for that and what it has and what it knows and how it can help people, but really helping our product teams and our sales teams and our marketing teams understand things from an HR point of view. So it's just been really different, but very cool thing, because you don't usually get opportunities like that in HR.
No, you work at this really great perspective of knowing HR and being a domain expert, right? You've got this solid history of really knowing the function, and you're at a technology company. And not only that, a technology company that really needs to understand its HR customers. So can you just very briefly tell us what GP does?
Sure. So we're actually, we'd look at us probably as a leader in global employment. We have a whole suite of products, everything from our EOR, which is employer of record, which is now AI powered. We've got our new agentic AI product, GIA, which is launching soon. And we have a contractor product as well. So we really span all of the areas to really help people employ people globally.
Laura, a lot of people hear this phrase EOR and they may not know what that means. So why don't you give us a description so we can really get a good understanding of what GP does?
Sure. So EOR, employer of record. So the best way to describe it is, we have a huge customer base in the US, but we are global. So if you're based in any one country and you want to hire an employee in another country, so say you're US based and you want to hire someone in Germany, you don't have an entity, so you can't do that. So a lot of companies will go the contractor route, but sometimes that's not the best and most ideal situation. Sometimes it's not even cost effective. So if you come work with GP, we hire the employee. So you found the talent. We don't find the talent for you. And we hire the employee. So technically on paper, on record, they're our employee. They're a GP employee, but they work for you. So we take care of all of the onboarding paperwork, the benefits, the compliance, the payroll, all of those things, everything that it takes to employ someone in that country. And you don't have to do any of that. You can just worry about assimilating them into your company and your culture and have a wonderful global employee and expand anywhere you want in the world.
Amazing. So you mentioned very early on that you're part of the Gen X cohort of HR professionals, as am I. I've had a lucky enough experience to work in HR for 30 years as well. And I remember the first time I really saw AI at work. I'm not just talking about like automation or digitization, although I remember those moments too. But I really felt like, oh my goodness, this is changing everything. Do you have an early memory of seeing either automation, digitization, or even AI that took your breath away?
There's a couple of things that come to mind. One isn't AI, but I remember back when, everyone was just starting to get onto Facebook and things like that. And I feel so old when I say that. But we hired a social media person in the marketing team, and we started getting tons of HR complaints that there was an employee sitting on Facebook all day. Because it's so new. And I feel I'm noticing similar types of apprehension, confusion. What is that with AI? I feel like it's very similar to how everything just shifted then. And I think for me, one of the first moments when I really saw the power of what it can do is I didn't do it, but my talent acquisition director did a presentation and there was this visual in it. And it was something that we had been having trouble explaining to people for 4 years. And I saw this visual and it was so perfect and it was so spot on. And you just looked at it and you understood the concept that we were having trouble getting across. And I said, look, I was like, that's amazing. She said, oh, AI did it.
Yeah.
And
wow.
so I was really like, okay, wow, that's a game changer right there.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today about AI in the world of work. And you've got 2 new reports out that really paint a big picture of what's happening right now. So if you were explaining these reports to a friend over coffee or someone at a conference, what's the story you would like to tell us about where work is headed?
Yeah, it's interesting. In all of our research that we do, it really shows just how AI and the changing world of work is really keeping executives up at night. Most are saying they are open to embracing AI, but also apprehensive to have it help them make decisions, expand the return to office and things like that. And just the whole way everything is shifted for how people want to work and how people are working. It's really showing us that people are embracing it and they want to use it and they want to move in this new direction, but they really don't know how. And that's what they're mostly struggling with.
Wow. So what surprises you in terms of the findings of this report? Like what's a top line bullet point that you would like us to know that maybe would shock us?
I think that people are very worried about being able to find the right talent. And the important thing about that is you might not be able to find that talent in your own backyard. And so understanding that there's options out there for you to be able to hire globally to find the talent that you need, because that's really one of the top line things that comes out in the data is that people are very concerned that they're not going to be able to find the right talent that they need to keep up with how fast everything is changing.
I think you're right. When people talk about the global economy, if you're like running a small manufacturing organization in Kentucky, you're like, I'm not part of the global economy, but it turns out you could be. There are options there. And that's something I'm sure GP is addressing in the marketplace.
Yes, absolutely. That's very true. Very
good. Well, I want to talk about framing these two reports and really thinking about the human versus machine tension, because your research shows this ongoing tension between leaning into AI and holding on to the human side of work. So, can you share a finding or a story, maybe from a company or a use case, that shows how leaders are trying to strike that balance?
So, the research does show that executives are really focusing on growth going forward. I think it's something like 7 out of 10 global executives say they're really focusing on growth in the year ahead. And many, if not most, are actually hiring, even though it might not feel that way. And it's probably in a much more targeted way. It's for critical roles. So they are hiring, but it's that struggle between finding that balance between how do we use AI, but also rely on people, because you need to have a blend of both. You need to have that critical thinking applied to it. And I don't think anyone's ready to just have a company full of, 4 or 5 managers who manage a bunch of AI agents. That's not anything anybody is ready for right about now. So I think where AI can get into the repetitive tasks, maybe give you those thought starters for communications, and as agentic comes on more and more, maybe be able to follow through on some tasks for you and apply some strategies in action to reach some goals. They really are looking to blend both the human and the machine, so to speak.
Well, Laura, you've mentioned the words agentic AI a few times in this conversation. And I wonder if you can talk about that and how GP folds into this trend in terms of products and services and just a POV on the future of work.
This is what I am most proud of that GP is doing. It's very easy to be skeptical about AI, and you should be. So if you're just using your run-of-the-mill large language model that's just scraping the internet and you ask it a question, it's going to give you an answer. But there was some research that was recently put out, not by us, and I can't remember the details because it was just in a conversation in passing a few weeks ago, but it showed that the majority of the content in those answers can be coming from places like Reddit or other social media sites. So you ask a global compliance question and you want to stay compliant globally and not bend any regulations, and you don't know that information is coming from Reddit, whereas agentic is really applying that reasoning. And while our products do some internet scraping, we've got many years experience with global employment. So what's the real power behind our GIA products is our experience, our knowledge of global employment. It's built by our legal team. It's built by our in-country HR operations team and some from our internal HR team. So the information is thoroughly vetted and has been put into practice. So it's just so much more reliable on something that is so important that you can't risk that, Reddit said you would never go to Reddit and plug in a global compliance question and make a business decision based on what you found in Reddit.
No, 100%.
You shouldn't be doing, so you have to be careful when you're just using some of the more standard LLMs.
Yes. Well, I love this concrete example of agentic AI and GP. Do you have another example of some of the advances in products that you've been working on in your organization and what that means to the day in, day out, ordinary manager, leader, or HR professional?
Yeah. So how we're using it right now on my HR team, we're in 180 countries, and plus the US. And so with all of those employees, all the different policies, all of the different regulations that are constantly changing, my operations team uses it to make sure our policies are staying up to date. And what's really helpful is, you get that baseline information, but when you're in a global company and you have employees in multiple locations, you'll kill yourself if you're trying to have a separate policy for every single one. But there are variances. So you're able to take that information and then go top level and establish a guiding principle globally and then apply the specific countries in there. Some of the future things with the products that are going to be great is being able to upload all of your policies and it will check them for you on a regular basis and alert you. Same thing with your contracts. There's all sorts of things like that. All of those things that as an HR person, you just find so tedious and so hard to keep up with and so, just manually intensive effort to do. You don't need to do that. And then you can focus on all of the other things that come up that we have to focus on.
I love it because you just identified heartburn for so many listeners in this audience in terms of that nasty old employee handbook. And a handbook is hard enough to maintain just in one location, let alone multiple countries, really understanding boots on the ground, what's going on, what's required. And this idea that AI could stay current, could stay correct, and keep you compliant, and really just keep you on the right side of doing the right thing for the workforce and the business is a really important point to make. And I think is lost because a lot of the conversation right now is very fearful about AI eliminating jobs. I don't know. What do you think about that observation?
I think it's going to change. I think when we were talking earlier and I mentioned, the social media, throughout history, technology comes along and changes the way people work. It changes what those entry-level jobs look like. Everyone says, oh, the entry-level jobs are going to go away. Well, they will, but there'll be different types of entry-level jobs, perhaps. I also think we're going to see it push people towards the trades. There's a shortage of people in the trades. And you've got a lot of kids going to college now and graduating. I know I've got at least 2 people on my team with crushing student loan debt, working in jobs that they really love, but have absolutely nothing to do with what they went to school for. So I think it's going to shift what it means to be successful, what it means to be educated and prepared to move into a job. I think companies are going to need to keep pace with that and get out of some of their rigid mindsets of, oh, and they have to have a degree to do this job, that sort of thing. So I just think we're going to see it shift. For HR, I think some people might say, oh, well, that's going to get wiped out very quickly. I actually don't agree with that. I think some of the manual things in HR can absolutely get wiped out very quickly, but the work of dealing with people are messy, and there's a lot that AI can't do when it comes to leading people and running an organization.
That's really interesting because in this, I sense a thread of optimism and that you think the future of work is still people-driven.
Oh, I do. I also think we could see the pendulums swing. And when they swing too far in one direction, then they swing back, and then they tend to go all the way to the other direction and then back again. And I think that there's a risk of people being over-reliant on AI and trying to jump on the bandwagon too quickly and saying, okay, we're going to eliminate all of these people and we're just going to do it with AI. And it's going to break. I mean, especially in early days, it's going to break. And then they're going to have to backtrack. So I think that we're going to see a little bit of a shift, but then a little bit of a normalizing again.
Yeah, I hope so. Well,
I hope so.
I want to talk about that because, people say HR's superpower is the human touch. But to your point, AI is taking more of that admin work off the plate. So I wonder, in your HR department, how are you keeping that human element alive? And what advice do you have for HR listeners who are really worried that, AI is just going to strip humanity out of HR?
I think the important thing is you've got to learn how to use AI. It's a let go or be dragged kind of moment. The worst thing you can do is bury your head in the sand. It's like when parents, their kid does something on social media that's bad and then they take away social media. It's like, no. That's a teaching moment. They can't escape social media. It's there for the rest of their lives. You've got to teach them how to use it the right way. So I think it will replace people who aren't willing to leverage it the right way. But, what we've started doing is if we're doing, say, an employee investigation, and we get all, you take pages and pages of notes, you feed that into AI, it creates summaries, it creates themes. We've had it create talking points for us for conversations. We have it create talking points for us for managers to have hard conversations. And that's something that we used to do, but we used to have to spend hours and hours and hours doing it. So now you can, and of course you always have to read it very thoroughly and you have to tweak it and you have to put you can't just say, here you go, because you're going to get yourself into trouble that way. You have to, but it definitely saves time. And oftentimes it picks up on something that maybe you might've missed or has a different take on it than when you had that you're like, oh, that's interesting. So learning how to use it for that to help you look smarter and be smarter and be successful. It's you have those managers sometimes who won't listen to the advice that you're giving them. And you're just if they do, they'll just make you look good. So how do you use it to make you look good?
Oh, I love that. I love that. Really good insight. Well, I do want to talk about something that's top of mind for a lot of HR professionals, and that's training and upskilling. We still have workers, They still need to be trained. They still need to learn and grow. So when it comes to AI adoption, I think HR teams and employees are curious, but they're nervous. From your vantage point, what's the best way HR can help people not just learn from these tools, but feel confident in using them? And do you have any examples of when that's gone well?
Yeah. So I think it's a huge change management thing because a lot of it's all fear-based, So it's like anything, it's like any other change. It is helping people get over the fear of the change. So I think that's got to be an underlying component. What we've done at GP is, we did go out there like a lot of companies did and say, we expect everyone to use AI in their jobs, but you can't do that without, one, helping them understand what that means, and two, making sure it's being done safely. So we have an AI council that I am on, along with the chief technology officer and several others throughout the organization. And we do lots of office hours and trainings on AI. Some of the people on our AI team actually who, do love nothing more than to talk about it all day long will do classes on prompting because prompting is so important. We brought on, under the vein of security, we use Google Gemini internally for our basic AI versus everyone going out to ChatGPT because we know by having Gemini internally, the information isn't going to go anywhere else. So it's really teaching people the safe way to use AI. We have a protocol in place, so we encourage them to go out and find tools to experiment with, but they have to run them through the council to make sure that they've got the right security protocols and it's something that we can bring in. But we're finding that with most of them, we're able to say yes to them, which is really great. So we have a Slack channel dedicated to AI and people go on and post if they found a new tool or they used it for something cool. Somebody posted that they had a wedding to go to and they needed to find a nail polish color to match their dress. And they put that into AI. So we like to keep the conversation going. And I think that's really helpful. And what I like about it is, I always say we want people to be able to bring their best selves to work, and you want it to just make them you want work to make you better all around and to add to your life. And we're dealing with AI, not just at work, we're dealing with AI in our personal lives. So the more you learn about how to use it smartly at work, the more you can apply that in your personal life. And we also double down on critical thinking because I think critical thinking is the key element to it. How to discern what's real and not real, how to discern what might not be correct just because it got back to you from AI. And more importantly, how to discern what you should and shouldn't feed into an AI platform.
I love that. I mean, there's critical thinking. There's also self-leadership embedded in that. How do you make sure that you're operating within the parameters of what's right and you're not a cowboy? I think that's a really important point that you made. So I'm glad you brought that up. Well, I do want to circle back. We've talked about your reports that you have out in the marketplace right now, but I want to get specific on them. Can you tell us about the two reports and what we need to know? So you can name them, and we're going to include the links in the show notes, but I want to make sure we give them their time due. So tell us about the first one you want to talk about.
So we have the World at Work report, and that is more of that focus is broadly on all changes in the world of work today and how executives are feeling about it. And, a lot of good insights around where things are going. But it also gives you a sense of how everyone is feeling about things. And oftentimes that can help you, just understanding, what other executives are worrying about. Are you worrying about the right things? Are you worrying about something that no one else is and why? That's that sort of thing. And then our AI report really doubles down, focuses on how people are specifically responding to AI. In that report, I think it was over 80% have said they think that AI is critical to the success of an organization. So it gets into that, what they're most concerned about, which is security is a huge one. The trust around the decision-making is a huge one that is in that report. So they're both really interesting and enlightening.
I love how you share how HR professionals can use these reports. And one of the things that you said is that they can be aligned with what executives are thinking about, but it also can give them the freedom not to worry about certain things. That's such an interesting point. Why did you word it that way?
I guess that's just how I think. You only have so much mental space, and there's a lot to worry about. So I think, and again, it goes to critical thinking, like what is a today problem? What is something that I should be worried about? What is pertinent to me? Every organization has a lot of, there's through lines with all organizations, but every organization is unique. I think just looking back, even when you think about benchmark surveys coming out of compensation, and how you go through and you discern that information and you analyze that and apply that into your compensation data, into your own workforce, being able to filter out the noise and understanding where you really need to focus. So I think my brain just works that way.
I love that. If every report could tell me, here's what you don't need to worry about, oh my goodness, like that would like give me that top line right there.
And I think that's just in how I read it. It doesn't necessarily say in the report, you don't have to worry about this, but that's how I tend to read things like, oh, they're not worried about that.
Yeah.
And then that can make you think through, well, I'm not worried about that. So okay, maybe I don't need to be. So
that's a perfect teachable moment for everybody. And it's a good insight into how executive HR leaders think. I mean, we're looking not necessarily for confirmation bias, right? We don't want to read a report that tells us everything that we already believe, but it's good to know at times if we're worried about something, if that's not a major threat, it's excellent when we can read a report that shows us that, okay, that may be something you're concerned about, but it's not a priority for your organization or the future of work. So thanks for giving us that insight on how you think.
Sure.
Yeah. As a closing reflection, I really want to think about both reports. And maybe you can share one story or one lesson that really sticks with you, something you hope leaders carry forward with them after they take a look and read the findings.
Everything is changing. And you can't fight it. It's like I said before, it's let go or be dragged. You have to be agile. You have to be able to set up your organization in a way that you can pivot quickly. And you have to do it in a way that if you're going to be functioning that way, which we all have to now, it's the reality. It's the reality. And I think that's the biggest thing, it's not going away. It's the reality. Then you have to be making sure that you are creating an environment where your employees can pivot and can react quickly and don't get overwhelmed by it all.
Those are really good lessons, really good thoughts. And I'm so appreciative you came on the show today and took time to walk us through the reports, walk us through some of your new products, and really get us thinking about the future of work in a holistic way. Laura, if people want to learn more about you, more about GP, we're going to include some of that in the show notes, but you tell us where we should go.
LinkedIn is great. We have a huge presence on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. And our website, globalizationpartners.com, you can go there and learn lots of things about us. But I generally go to LinkedIn for a lot because we have a huge presence on LinkedIn. So.
Amazing. We'll include that all. And thanks again for being a guest today.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's Punk Rock HR. If you want to learn more about Laura or GP, head on over to the show notes. And thanks again to RepCap for making this show possible. If you enjoyed the episode, please like it, leave a review, or share it with a friend. It really helps more people find the show. Now, I'm Lori Rudiman. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time on Punk Rock HR.